For our next example, we're going to look at these two numbers. Go ahead and say to yourself what this problem is in standard form. So that would be 4 and 83 thousandths minus 1 and 29 hundredths. What do you notice about 1 and 29 hundredths when you compare it to 4 and 83 thousandths? There's nothing in the thousandths column for this. So we got to make sure that we're putting these units in their proper place value columns. So let's go ahead and using the place value disk show what 4 and 83 thousandths would look like. So that would be 4 ones, 0 tenths, 8 hundredths, and 3 thousandths. Now, let's go ahead and start subtracting 1 and 29 hundredths. So, there's nothing in this thousandths column. If I were to write 1 and 29 hundredths, there would be nothing here. So 3 take away nothing would just be 3. Now I'm going to go to my hundredths. So I have 8 in my number, 4 and 83 thousandths, and I'm trying to take away 9, but that's not enough. So I'm going to have to borrow. So when I try to go over to my tenths column to borrow, there's nothing there to borrow. So what should I do? I'm going to go to my ones column and borrow. So when I borrow 1 1, I'm going to unbundle it first. When I move it back, it's going to become 10 tenths. Now I have 10 tenths, which is equivalent to that 1 1 we just borrowed. Now I can borrow from my tenths column so I can have enough to take away 9 hundredths. So I'm going to unbundle one of these tenths and I'm going to move it backwards and it's going to become 10 hundredths. So now I have a total of 18 hundredths. Now I can take away 9 of them. So I'm going to take away 9 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. How many does that leave me with? I have 5 here, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I'm left with 9 hundredths. Now let's move on to the tenths column. When I move on to the tenths column, I notice I have 9 tenths, take away 2 tenths. So I'm going to take away 2 more tenths, which would leave me with 5, 6, 7, my decimal, and then 3 ones, take away 1 1, would give me 2 ones. Now let's see what this looks like using the written method. So the first thing I need to do is I need to line up my place values. So I'm going to start by placing 4 and 83 thousandths in my place value chart. Then I'm going to make sure that I put the ones with the ones for my second number. Make sure to line it up, my decimal, 2 tenths, and 9 hundredths. What should go here, because I've run out of numbers, there's nothing in the thousandths place, so what should I put here? A 0. Now I can subtract. 3 take away nothing is 3. Now I can't take away 9 from 8, that's not enough, so I have to look to my neighbor to borrow. So I'm going to go to the ones column, or the tenths column, but there's nothing here. So I'm going to have to go over to the ones column and borrow. So I'm going to take away 1 1 and unbundle it to regroup. When I take away this 1 1 and bring it over here to tenths, that's going to become 10 tenths. Now, I have enough to borrow, so I still need to borrow from my tenths column. So when I come over to borrow, that's going to change it to 9 tenths. And when these tenths come over, that 1 tenth is going to become 10 hundredths. So I already have 8 hundredths. So 10 hundredths and 8 hundredths is 18. hundredths. 18 take away 9 is 9. I'm going to move to my tenths column. 9 take away 2 is 7. My decimal line up because I lined up my place values. And then 3 take away 1 is 2. So you can see using place value dis and the written method, we got the same answer. And for this problem, we had to borrow multiple times in each method. So we're unbundling and bringing them back. And when we do that, we notice that when I unbundled 1 1, that became 10 tenths. And then when I unbundled 1 tenth, that became 10 hundredths.